And welcome to another episode of the Happy Wife School Show. I'm Karen Seitz, and I'm excited to be with you guys today. I missed you last week. I was camping with Adam, my husband, for Memorial Day weekend, and we've got some camping trips coming up over the summer. So there is a summer schedule. If you go to the community post on the YouTube channel, you'll see the schedule for the summer. So I will be here next week, which is June 7th. I will not be here on June 14th. We'll be camping again. So just take a check. If you're here regularly, be sure to check that out so you know the summer schedule and when we'll be live. So let me know that you can hear me, see me. Everything's coming through all right in the chat. I'll check that in a moment. Just a few announcements before we get started with our Q&A today. I love doing the Q&As and excited for our questions today. But first, just a reminder, if you like to listen to this long format show in podcast versus video, where I do the intro and the end, please be sure to check out the Happy Wife School on Spotify and Apple. If you feel inclined, give it a rating. That helps it reach more people. What's interesting about the podcast format is that it does actually reach more women, where my audience is predominantly male on my YouTube channel. On Spotify, it's, I think, like, last time I checked, I think it was like 35% female listeners. So that's very exciting, because as much as I want to be able to teach good men and give good men a roadmap, my mission is to reach women and wake women up. That's why this is the red pill for women. So be sure to check out Spotify or Apple for the podcast version. And then, as always, I like to give a shout out to my colleague and good friend, Josie Warren, the autoimmune expert. If you haven't, please go check her YouTube channel out. It is the autoimmune expert, and you can find the link in the description below. That if you or a loved one has autoimmune diseases like fibromyalgia or Hashimoto's or Graves' disease or rheumatoid arthritis or a chronic illness like depression or anxiety or chronic pain or ADHD, Josie does incredible work teaching people to heal from autoimmune and chronic illness by working on our emotional state, and just has an incredible message. She did a really, really great live episode yesterday that really goes deep into Camp Victim, which I talk about often on this channel, and how Camp Victim causes us to create illness and disease in our bodies. So please go check that episode out. It's really, really important, and she did a phenomenal job. So again, you can find the link to her channel in the description below. And then lastly, but not least, thank you so much to Phil and Steve for being incredible moderators and keeping the chat an awesome place to be during the Saturday live show. So please make their job easy and don't troll or be disruptive or rude or disrespectful. Keep it supportive. Even if there is disagreement and debate in the chat, that is fine, but please be respectful of each other, of me, of Steve and Phil. They will give you the boot. They will give you the boot if you are not behaving in the chat. So thank you guys so much for all that you do. And then I'm just going to take a quick look here and then we'll get in. Thank you, Phil. Loud and clear. Appreciate that. I appreciate Phil putting that in a bunch of times so it pops up when I look at the chat. And Tia, thank you for being here. Memphis Barbecue, always great to see your name pop up. Mike88GT. What are those crown #1 things? It's a new community aspect on YouTube. If you click on that in the chat, it'll tell you what it's all about. But I think it's the people that are top contributors in the chat or something like that. So it's a new YouTube feature. Johnny Good, nice to see your name pop up. Tia, I think I said hi, but welcome. And all the ladies who joined the chat on Saturday and are here to learn. Hi, Luke. Yeah. All right, guys. Awesome to see your names here and familiar faces, even though I can't see your faces, but oh well, here we go. We'll dive into the Q&A for today. So just so you know, there is a link in the description below that if you have a question for me that you would like to be considered when I do Q&A episodes. I usually do them about once a month. I might do them a little more over the summer. But if you have a question for me that you would like me to address or a topic you would like me to address, just know you can send that over and we will get that and archive it as a potential question to use. I like to give the reminder that I use these questions as talking points, so topics of discussion, to teach the principles in my message on the Happy Wife School channel. So I haven't talked to the people who have submitted these questions. I don't know both sides of the stories when it involves the marriage and relationship issues. I just want to take what they shared as an interesting window into common everyday issues that we have between women and good men in a marriage. And today we have a smorgasbord of questions, some from women, some from men, that should make for a really great show. So with all that being said, I'm going to go ahead and dive in, and we'll start with the first question. I have 5 today that I am going to try to get through. So I'm going to try to keep my answers a little more short and not so long as I go through these. So we'll see how it goes. But the first question ties into the title of the Q&A today. And the question is, I know this is a relationship show, but I just had a daughter and I have been thinking about how to raise her. Do you have any advice on raising girls to someday be happy wives? And thank you so much for, this was actually a man that submitted this question. So thank you so much for writing that in. It's a great question. It's one that I've seen pop up time to time on the live show and in comments on different videos. So I'm going to give you a 30,000 foot view answer to this question. And very simply put, how you raise girls to someday be happy wives potentially is that you want to raise them like you would your sons. You want to raise them like you would your sons. Let me explain. What I mean by that is you want to teach your daughters the same level of responsibility, accountability, consequences for their behaviors, just as you would your sons. And this instills a moral compass and integrity, and teaches young girls to build a relationship with themselves, to feel good about who they are. The issues that I talk about on the channel that we have as women as we grow older and have relationships with men, and especially in what we talk about on this channel with good men, that those behaviors and our woman ways stem from having no relationship with ourselves, not feeling good about who we are, and having no sense of integrity or internal moral compass to guide us. The foundation of happiness is a healthy relationship with yourself that results by feeling good about who you are, by being responsible and accountable to your behaviors, and understanding that your behaviors have consequences. That creates a deep connection with ourselves and a deep sense of meaning and purpose in who we are, so that our happiness comes from within and we are not looking for our happiness externally. And when you raise a young girl to have accountability and responsibility, and that her behaviors have consequences, you are also teaching her to learn and grow from life. That you also want your girls to learn from life. Let them fall. Let them get hurt. Let them stumble. Let them pick themselves back up and figure it out. And do not enable their victim stories. You do not want to protect your daughters from getting hurt. You don't want to protect them from heartbreak or loss. You want to instill in them that hurt, heartbreak, and loss are a normal, natural part of life, and that when we embrace hurts and heartbreak and challenges and loss in life to grow and learn, it builds a sense of resilience, a sense of understanding life and approaching life practically, and not letting our emotions get the best of us and living an emotional life, but living a life where we run into the challenges of life, take responsibility for our choices and the outcomes of those choices, and grow and learn from them. That's what makes us feel good about ourselves. That's what instills self-value. And it's what teaches your daughters to live in camp, take responsibility. So when she gets her heart broken, when she gets hurt, you want to guide her to look at what were your choices and decisions and what's your part and role in this, and not enabling or helping her create a victim story of what's happened to her. Because that's what makes us feel bad about ourselves and heightens our woman ways as we get older and potentially get married. The other piece of this is that as the man, you need to be the one to parent. You need to take the lead in parenting. That does involve an ongoing fight and battle with your wife, because as women, we are helicopter moms, we are mama bears, and we don't like it when our husbands are teaching discipline and consequences. We perceive it that you are being too harsh, too hard, and we want to protect our kids from that and then end up making you the bad guy. So that is the battle you will be up against. But as a man, you need to be the one to lead in parenting, because as women, we are not good parents. We are not good parents. And the reason for that is we have no skill set and ability to parent ourselves, meaning being accountable and responsible, doing the things we know we need to do even when we don't want to, with a good attitude and positivity. We do what we want when we want to do it. We do not take accountability for our actions and behaviors, and we buck and push away any kind of consequence. So if that's our relationship with ourselves, we have no capacity to teach our daughters or even our sons to have discipline. We can't teach them to take accountability and do the things they need to do and get back up. And then we are also highly protective and are terrified to let our children fall down and get back up and get hurt in life. And that is typically from a selfish place. We're not worried about our children. We're worried about the pain we might have to feel of our kids going out into life and falling down and getting hurt or doing things that they shouldn't do and having to learn and grow from them, because we are pain avoiders. And we do not want to feel that pain within ourselves of our kids figuring life out. So we protect them. And that is a huge detriment to children. So in raising young girls to be resilient, have a relationship with themselves, be responsible and accountable, we highly, highly recommend Love and Logic, which is a parenting book and framework that instills choices, consequences, and taking responsibility. And your wives, and for the women listening, will have a very, very difficult time putting in place Love and Logic, because in order for it to truly work, you have to be able to do it yourself. You can't ask of your kids what you aren't willing to do for yourself. They will rebel. So you have to lead by example. But Love and Logic is the parenting framework that we most often recommend because it does instill choices, consequences, and taking responsibility. And the last piece that I will say on this is, as you raise your daughters and you do your best in instilling responsibility and accountability and teaching her to have a healthy relationship with herself and living in camp take responsibility, she is still going to be a woman. She's still going to have some of these woman ways as she grows older and gets into a relationship or a marriage with a good man. She's always going to be a woman. And what you're hoping is that you're giving her a foundation through what I just shared. You're giving her a foundation to feel good about herself and be emotionally stable, emotionally regulated and grounded, so that she is lower on the spectrum of woman ways, again, being emotionally regulated and stable. And that happens by letting them fall down, stumble, get back up, learning to be resilient, and living in camp take responsibility, looking at their part and role in choices and decisions that contribute to the outcome and circumstances of their lives, so that they are not living in camp victim, where we are emotionally uncontrolled, dysregulated, and on the higher end of the spectrum in our woman ways. So thank you again so much for that question. I think that's such a great topic, and I appreciate the opportunity to talk about that. So getting into question number 2, again, we've got 5 questions today. Number 2, what if you don't feel you are a good man anymore? I was unfaithful to my wife, and there's a lot that goes into that, but ultimately it was my decision. Now, intimacy with my wife post 8 years since the sin is boring. Intimacy happens once a month of that. There have been periods where it's been more than 6 months. I have gotten tired of being rejected, so I don't even try anymore. All of this makes me think I am the problem and that I am not a good man. You talk about all the good men out there, but what about those of us who have made horrible mistakes? So thank you again so much for this question. And you are not alone. And this is a common issue that I see in talking with good men, reading your comments, reading the questions that you send in to me, that it's very difficult for a good man to know he's a good man. Many times that is very, very common from different mistakes or who they've been created to be by their wives, and buying into their wives' stories of who they are and how they are the problem, that diminishes a good man's sense of self and his sense of confidence and knowing who he is. So you are not alone. And especially for good men who have been unfaithful and made a mistake and stepped outside the marriage, it's very difficult to overcome based on the dynamics that you're dealing with in your marriage after that mistake. And so we're going to give a little framework around that. So in answering this question, the truth is that good men can make horrible mistakes. Good men can make horrible mistakes. And I'm sure the wonderful men who join the show every Saturday can attest to that in the chat and in the comments, that you're not perfect. There's nothing about the phrase good man that means perfect man. It means that your foundation is one of being steady, stable, responsible, hardworking, loving, kind, thoughtful, and you are still human. We are all human. And regardless of being a man or a woman, we are all human, and we all have the capacity, no matter how wonderful of a person we may be or how good of a man you may be, we all have the capacity to make horrible mistakes and choices and decisions, because as humans, we all have shortcomings. We all have flaws. We have errors in judgment and errors in choices, sometimes bigger than others. And that's a part of life, and that's part of being human. So you have to embrace and accept that reality and normalize that you made a big mistake. But you also want to understand why you maybe have made that mistake as a good man, which I'm going to get into here in just a moment. One of the ways that you can know you are a good man is that you have remorse and regret for your mistake, and as this man put in his question, for his sin. So the fact that you have remorse and regret, and that you have sought forgiveness, and that you are trying to be a better man, lets you know you're a good man, and it doesn't mean you're perfect. The other piece of how you can know that you are a good man is the continual punishment that you receive from your wife. That's the lack of sex and intimacy in the marriage, that she will always hold this over your head and withhold and punish you for your transgression. And through that behavior and that punishment of you, that is the gaslighting that's causing you to feel that you are the problem and that you are not a good man, that she will always use this against you to make you feel that you are not a good man and that you did something horrible and unredeemable, because she won't be able to forgive you. What good men also need to understand in this position, if you have been unfaithful, and I've said this many times, I don't condone going outside the marriage. However, in knowing how good men are treated in a marriage, and especially around the withholding of sex, affection, appreciation, kindness, the emasculation, the manipulation, the gaslighting, is that pushes a good man to go outside of his character and morals and integrity, to be unfaithful. And a good man is still responsible for that choice. Like I said, doesn't make it okay or all right. And a good man has a very, very hard time living with that mistake and going outside the marriage, and has a lot of remorse and regret. But you want to understand what happens underneath that choice is it takes so much for some men to be pushed away, punished, emasculated, treated poorly before you are vulnerable and you do go outside the marriage and make that mistake. So you want to know that you were likely unfaithful. Again, I haven't talked to this man. I do not know the story. I'm using this as a talking point to reinforce and elaborate on some of the principles and message I teach on the channel. But it is likely that you were unfaithful because your wife pushed you away through emasculating you, withholding affection, love, kindness, and that left you very lonely and lost and empty and weak in yourself. That then an opportunity came along and you took it, and now you have regret and remorse for that because it's outside of your character and moral system. So you have to know why it happened and seeing it from that angle so that you don't think there's something fundamentally flawed about you or something horribly wrong with you, that you were unfaithful in your marriage. It is a common mistake that can be made and most likely happened if as a good man because of your wife's treatment of you. And knowing that allows you to forgive yourself and understand why it happened so you can rebuild that strength in yourself for your own sake and no longer feel that you are not a good man or that you are have made this horrible, unredeemable mistake. You have to see how your wife pushed you to that point to go outside your morals. And then again, you must forgive yourself and become grounded in knowing yourself as a good man. The sad truth is your wife will never forgive you. As women, even no matter how well-intentioned we are, no matter how much we want to be able to let something like this go, it is incredibly difficult for us in our wiring and how we hold on to hurt and how we were looking for something. The reason a woman pushes a good man away to cheat is it is the ultimate victim story that we can hold in our back pocket and pull out anytime we need to blame our husbands for the problems in the marriage and why we are so unhappy. So women will push a good man to get him to a point where he will cheat so that she has that ultimate perfect victim story and she can always point the finger out of how he was the problem and how badly he betrayed her and hurt her. And then she never has to look at herself and take any kind of accountability. That's why a woman pushes a good man to cheat, and she will never forgive you for it. So you must forgive yourself and must become grounded in who you are as a good man and understand even in that you make mistakes. So thank you again so much for that question. I'm going to move to the third question now. Like I said earlier, it's a smorgasbord of questions, so they go in different directions and topics, but ones that I just found really interesting. So again, thank you to those who are submitting these wonderful questions. Number 3, I'm going to take a quick sip of water. Probably don't need to announce that, but oh well. All right, number 3. How can you be a kind and loving wife after feeling betrayed by your husband's porn use? I know porn use is rather common within and out of marriages today. I want intimacy, love, and respect in my marriage, and definitely fall into what you call my woman ways. Any advice or thoughts? So thank you to this woman. Good for you to ask the question and want to learn and grow from this. And I'm going to answer it just as I would if I was working with one of my female students in a course and I just tell it straight and directly, so that you can have a red pill moment to see the truth in yourself and how you are using this as a way, as a woman way to have a victim story about your husband. So if you know, and it also in this, I want to say, I haven't talked to this woman. I don't know the story. I'm not talking about compulsive addictive behavior with porn. I'm just taking this question and using it again as a talking point to talk about porn use being common in a marriage and not talking about addiction or compulsive use. So if you know it's common, for men to watch porn, which it is, why do you want to make it a betrayal? That's the question. Why do you want to make porn a betrayal? Especially when we know that it is common. So good men do not watch porn against their wives. It is an outlet. Just as shopping can be for us as women, just as alcohol can be for some people, or emotional eating, or doom scrolling on your phone and on social media. It is an outlet. It is a release. It is a coping mechanism of stress. A good man isn't watching porn to try to betray or hurt his wife. There is a wonderful article that I highly recommend reading, and I will remember hopefully to put it in the comments below. The article is called, it's actually on Redbook magazine, but the article is "I'm Happily Married and Still Watch Porn." And he says a quote in it: "As a married guy, I can tell you having another emotional relationship is not my fantasy." When I watch, it's not my fantasy when I watch porn. My fantasy is less emotion and less relationship, and porn is zero relationship. It's an escape from the anxiety and stress of everyday life. And in this question, we're not talking about the morals of watching porn or not watching porn, just seeing that it is common and it is a vice, and that we all have vices, that none of us are perfect human beings without any vice of escape or coping with the stressors of everyday life. So I often ask women in this, what vice do you have that you hide or don't want others to know about or have a spotlight on? Because we can be on our high horses and make men wrong around porn when we have vices, and not let alone our woman ways that are a million times worse than the vice of a man watching porn from time to time. So that's a question you want to ask yourself. The other piece in this question is, this is just another thing that we can use to make our husbands the bad guy, make them wrong, and weave and create our victim story. So let's assume she's married to a good man. Again, just for the sake of a talking point, she's married to a good man. He watches porn from time to time as a stress outlet and release. And he is just a wonderful husband and is appreciative and thoughtful, a good dad, works hard, good provider. And as women, we will look, what's the thing that I can use to make him wrong, make him the bad guy? And porn is often very much one of those things we look to create that victim story. This is a wonderful example of the stories we create as women and how we want to find that one thing to validate why our husbands are the problem and why we blame them for our unhappiness in the marriage. And here's the truth, that if you were a kind and loving wife, that kindness and love would not be conditional on whether or not your husband watches porn or what he does or doesn't do that is in the range of normal and common in everyday life. You would focus on all the wonderful things that he does and how he shows up and his qualities as a good man, and you would accept him and have empathy for him because you understand your own humanness and your own mistakes or vices that you have. So there's an incongruency here. And the question that a kind, loving wife would not feel betrayed. You tell yourself that I can't be kind and loving because of his porn use, but it's the opposite. That if you were a kind and loving wife, you would not feel betrayed. Telling yourself that you can't be a kind and loving wife because of the porn use, again, is a victim story. Because he does X, Y, and Z, I have to be guarded and walled off and distant in the relationship. That's camp victim. That's putting the power and control outside of yourself and creating a poor me story of how you're betrayed in your marriage. The reason that women, and as women, we feel betrayed by our husbands watching porn, again, not talking about an addiction or compulsive behavior, just a normal vice and outlet. The reason we feel betrayed is because of our own insecurities in ourselves. If we were secure, confident, felt good about ourselves, we would not be threatened by our husbands watching porn, and we would see the reality of it, that it is not an emotional outlet for them. It is a stress outlet and a release without pressure to perform or connect. Just, again, like shopping or scrolling on your phone or binge watching a Netflix show. Porn is just taboo in our culture and something we can make bigger and a bigger problem than what it actually is. I'm not saying it can be a problem for some, but that's not the framework of which we are talking about this. So what you want to do is be looking at yourself, not outward at him. What is it about me, independent of my husband's behaviors, that I'm not a kind, loving wife? And what is it about me and my own insecurities that I can be so threatened and feel betrayed by this? And then you can overcome and accept and not make it a problem when you're secure in yourself and living in camp. Take responsibility and focus on the good things in your marriage. So again, thank you so much for the question. Moving right along, we are going to get into question 4. Again, I have 5 questions today. So question 4, I like this one too. Is it easier to have the dance with a wife who is 10 plus years younger? She has less relationship baggage, less time for negative influences from family, friends, social media, etc. Part 2 of the question, how involved should one's immediate extended family be in a relationship, like resolving conflicts or helping you plan for the future? And part 3 of the question, how early should I introduce Karen's videos to someone I am dating? So thank you for these questions. Gets us off in some interesting directions. So answering the first question in the question, is it easier to have the dance with a wife who is 10 plus years younger? Absolutely, emphatically, no, it is not. I know there's a lot of material out there that says otherwise, but I have to strongly disagree. And coming from a woman who is married to a man who is 10 years older, 9 years older than me. But no, it is a myth and absolutely no truth that a younger woman has less relationship baggage or less negative influences from family, friends, and social media. That is a big, old, giant myth. That the reality is, and thinking of myself, I met Adam when I was 25 and he was 34. And just thinking of myself in my 20s and assuming this is a young man and potentially interested in a woman in her 20s, we are incredibly emotionally immature at that age. I was. And I still had a lot of relationship baggage, even though I hadn't had many relationships, because here's the thing. We start building our walls as women the very first time that we get hurt, and typically by a man, or at that age, a boy. I was sharing as I was planning for this, that my first heartbreak and first time getting really hurt that I can remember. And there were some before this, but this is the one that still stands out, where I know I started to build my walls and have relationship baggage. I was in 5th grade and I had a crush on a boy. His name was Jake. And, you know, at that age, you send a friend, hey, go ask him if he likes me and like if he wants to go out. And I remember my dad always used to tease, where are you guys going to go? I'm like, Dad, that's not what it means. But I had a friend go ask Jake if he liked me, and I had really bad acne when I was young, starting at like a really young age, like in 5th grade. And he sent my friend back with the message of I could, or what did he say? I could play connect the dots on her face, and that was the answer and response. And I was so hurt by that, and I started to build my walls and started to protect myself. So it's a myth that we don't have relationship baggage. Again, we're very emotionally immature, and we start collecting our hurts from a young age. I had a huge victim story about my parents and my upbringing, and my dad, who is a wonderful man. You guys have heard me talk about him. He's a retired Master Chief from the Navy, and he did his best to raise me with responsibility and consequences and instilling a sense of being able to be resilient in life. I rebelled. I was a rebel. I was very rebellious. And I had a huge victim story of how awful my dad was, and just a mean man, and just crushed my self-esteem, and just a huge victim story. So don't be fooled that younger women don't have a giant victim story from a young age. They've been on social media these days since I lucked out. I graduated high school in 2002 and just missed. I didn't even have a cell phone in high school, and missed that social media in my younger years just by the skin of my teeth. But these days, that's their whole life. So it's a myth, and that you want to be with someone your age. I'm very fortunate. Adam and I have worked really hard to make our relationship work, and I wouldn't want it any other way. But the truth is, you want a person that's in your age range, so you go through similar phases and stages in life together and can relate on that level, is my perspective. So, and if you need any further proof, take a look. I know this is kind of an extreme example, but take a look at Bill Belichick and his young girlfriend, who's 24, and what she's doing to him. It's pretty blatant, and she's 24. So I think that's while an extreme example, a good example that a woman is a woman is a woman. Doesn't matter our age. So that's the answer to the first part of the question. For the second part of the question, how involved should one's immediate extended family be in the relationship, like helping to resolve conflicts, planning for the future? Not involved at all. Your family should not be involved at all in the relationship and helping provide advice or resolve conflict. No one has any idea of what a good relationship looks like in general. And you don't want their advice, and you do not want them meddling in your relationship. As a man, you want to shoulder your own burdens and leave the issues and challenges of the relationship to be dealt with privately. I want to talk a little bit about what I call the illusion of family, that we want to believe that family is there to support us and be our biggest fan, but they are often our biggest critics, and they create the most drama in our lives. So you do not want your family in your relationship and in the issues, especially if it's your wife or girlfriend, because what we do as women is we take the relationship issues to our family, to our friends, air our dirty laundry, and build a case against our husbands or partner of why they are the problem. And while we might be able to move forward and move on from the issues and challenges, family don't. And they gossip and they talk about what's going on with everybody amongst each other. And then you've got everybody in your life and judging you and telling you what you should be doing, and not making you feel secure and equipped that you can handle your life, which is what you want to be able to do as a good man. And you do not want to create enable your wife or partner to build that case against you by going outside of the relationship to try to resolve the issues with family and friends. The last question in this question: how early should I introduce Karen's videos to someone I am dating? Once you've decided that it is a woman you potentially want to commit to, that's when you want to share the videos. It is a 100% foolproof vetting system. Showing a woman that you are interested in to potentially commit to, whether it's a long-term relationship or a marriage, showing my videos is a 100% foolproof vetting process. If she is not interested, if she is hurt, makes you wrong for sharing the videos, then you want to move on immediately and as fast as possible. It means she is not willing to look at herself, and she will blame you for everything. So you can know if you're dating a woman and you share my videos and she has a poor negative reaction, then you know you are going to have a woman on the higher end of the woman ways that I talk about. So it's a vetting process. And if that's the case, you want to move on. If she's open to them and like, oh, this is interesting, I could learn from this, or, oh, I can see myself in that, thank you for sharing this, hit the jackpot. Doesn't mean she's still going to be a woman. She's still going to be a woman, but she's going to be lower on that spectrum and much more emotionally stable and much more geared towards can't take responsibility. And it shows she has a willingness to look at herself and be honest about her behaviors and take accountability for them and be willing to change. So thank you so much for those questions. That was a fun little segue to go off into, and supporting young men who are not married and in the dating process. So thank you. And then the last question, number 5. I like all these as I read them, like they're so good. Thank you all so much for sending these in. Number 5, how do I inspire my husband to initiate more? If I don't make blatant moves for intimacy to happen, I'm lucky if he initiates 1 or 2 times a month. I am compassionate and understanding that we are both often tired and have competing schedules, so I try not to pressure him. I know quite often he'll just take care of himself even when I'm home. We've had talks and arguments about this in the past which don't go well, so I don't bring it up anymore. He knows if I had it my way, we'd make it happen every day. I have never shut him down, but it's hard for me to be emotional or take it personally. I often feel left out and lonely and like it's a chore. So good for you. Thank you so much for asking the question and having the courage and braveness to send it in and want to know the answer. I'm going to teach this as if this woman was on with me and she was one of my students, and just being direct in what I teach. Again, I don't know the specifics of this relationship. I haven't talked to this woman. I don't know her husband. So I'm teaching within the principles and framework of the Happy Wife School so that we can all learn from these common everyday issues. Your husband does not want to initiate sex with you because you have emasculated him and pushed him away and made him feel wrong and bad for who he is, and he has lost his attraction to you and is no longer interested in initiating and having sex with you. That's why. You want to watch 5 reasons your husband doesn't want to have sex anymore under the video tab. That'll go into a little bit more in depth and a little bit of what I'm going to talk about here. But this is a great example, again, of how as women we weave our victim stories. This is a victim story. I often say you cannot believe a married woman's story when she's married to a good man, and we're assuming she's married to a good man, again, teaching from the principles of the channel. You cannot believe a woman's victim story. The truth is that we want what we don't have. And the story is, if I had it my way, we'd have sex every day. I wish I had one of those buttons that was like, eh. No, that's a story. That's a story. That's what we tell ourselves to validate how we're feeling unhappy about this, and poor me, and look at what my husband's doing to me and how awful and horrible it is. So we create a story like that, that I would have it every day if it was my way. No, that's not true. We want what we don't have. I can promise you, if it was reversed and her husband was in the typical situation of wanting sex with his wife and she was withdrawn and withholding sex, then she would not want it every day. It's just the story we create because we want what we don't have. Men are wired to want to have sex. That's why it's in their top 3 generally of what's most important to them in a marriage. Women are not wired to want to have sex for the sake of having sex and enjoying the experience of sex. There is always a hidden agenda. That's how we can know, in the framework of what I talk about, that this woman's husband is not initiating sex or interested in sex with her because she's pushed him away and emasculated him. And what we have to understand and learn as women is one of the ways we can emasculate a good man is by pressuring him to have sex when he isn't interested and using that against him of what's wrong with you. You're a man, and what's wrong with you that you don't want to have sex as much as I want to have sex? And wanting to have sex every day as a woman is a power tool to control my sex drive. So you have to look at, what is it about me? And not live in camp victim, but go to camp take responsibility. What is it about me that my husband isn't wanting to have sex with me? How am I showing up? How am I behaving? Well, it's very clear in this. You are using sex as a way to control your husband and make him wrong and bad, and he's not interested. And then you want to look at, what are the other woman ways that you have that I talk about that has caused him to lose his attraction to you because you're treating him poorly. And that's the simple answer to this when we look at it, again, in the framework and the principles of the Happy Wife School. So thank you so much for the question. And those are the questions for today. I'm amazed. I'm amazed I got through 5 in 40 minutes. Thank you guys so much for being here. I really, really enjoy doing these Q&As. It allows for different discussion in what I talk about on the channel, and it's fun for me. So I hope you guys enjoy this format too when I do the Q&As. Please consider subscribing to the channel if you haven't already. If you haven't liked the video, please do. It helps it reach more people. And if you know someone that this could help, please share the video. It's so cool to see how many times my videos are shared in a month. YouTube always gives like a little recap, and it's really neat to see how quickly the message spreads and gets out there by you guys sharing. So I appreciate that so much. I think the last time I checked, the channel has like 26 million views, which is just amazing. And we are coming up on 200,000 subscribers. So I'm very excited for that. I think we just broke 193 a couple days ago. So slowly but surely getting there. I bet it'll be by the end of August, we're at 200, or maybe before that, which would be great. But we'll get there. So thank you guys so much for your contribution to that and helping get the message out there, because it's very, very needed. So I'm going to head over to the chat. I forgot to say this at the beginning, but Phil's going to send me some questions. So if you had a question for me, I know he's going to call last call in just a moment, and I'll answer a couple questions just as a heads up. Sometimes if I don't know how I would really answer it and I need more time, I won't answer the question. Or if it talks about context of things that I'm not an expert in or don't understand, I don't try to answer it. So please know if I don't, it's not personal. Just want to provide good content and be confident in the questions that I take on. So just like to say that. Yeah, these crowns are funny. I'll have to look more into that. All right, I'm going to go over here first. Thank you so much, Salty Combat Diver. I appreciate you so much. Salty's been on the channel and supporting the channel for a very long time. since its beginning a couple years ago, and I appreciate your contribution today very much. That's very kind. C. Irving, you as well. Thanks so much for your continued participation and support of the channel. Yeah. Oh, that's good. I think you should introduce Karen's video in the first month. I think that's a good rule. So he's saying in the beginning of dating someone, in the first month. I don't believe in wasting time. It shows where your partner's mindset is early on. So true. Thank you guys so much. Tia, I like that. Yeah, the crowns are like a leaderboard. Yeah, it's very interesting. I haven't seen that before. All right, let's see. Oh, that's good. All right. I'm going to go to my email because I know Phil's sending some questions. And then I'll hop back over to the chat after that. All right. Here we go. Go Titan. Thank you for your comment. Karen, thank you so much for all your help. I've been following you for seems like 2 years. Yeah, that's about right. That's about how long I've been around. I think I posted my first video in July of 2023. Yeah, so about 2 years. And can't get enough of your content. I'm still working through my marriage, going on 50 years. Good for you. Thank you so much for sharing, and so happy to have you part of the community. Oh, that's good. From Back Scratch. Karen, you have found what is truly attractive to a man beyond infatuation, beyond having a crush. When the dust settles, the one thing that will be attractive to men and women is honesty and understanding. Very, very well said and very true. You know, I tease sometimes as I've gotten older and just my body type and you know can be a little curvier or shapier, and my husband Adam he's a slim guy, tall and slim, always has been, and teasingly or jokingly sometimes people call him Fat Adam because he does really thin. And he just loves me and adores me and tells me that all the time and how beautiful I am, and it's because of who I am as a woman and the work I've done on myself to show up and treat him with understanding and kindness and respect. That's the most attractive thing to a good man, that a good man can look past a lot physically when he has a woman that's just kind and happy and fun to be around, and respects him and shows him genuine care and love. So that's just a very, very true statement, and I appreciate you sharing that. Let's see. Thank you guys as I read through these. Good one. My daughter always has an excuse outside of herself for each and every mistake or failure. Yep, that's being a woman. So first thing you want to do is just normalize your daughter's a woman. She's living in Camp Victim. What is a healthy way to teach her to take responsibility? Is really, it depends on the age. If your daughter's an adult now, you can try to make your case and teach the best you can, but she's going to have her own journey and path. But it's in a loving way of, I'm sorry you're having this problem, but what's your part and role in it and teaching? I'm asking you that because when you take responsibility, you allow yourself to grow and learn from life and to be able to move forward. And then, of course, being a role model and you taking responsibility for your mistakes and failures and role modeling that. And she's either going to listen or she's not to you when you try to help her to take responsibility. But if she's younger, that's and she's still in your home and under your guidance, that's where you want to run and go get Love and Logic. They have a love and Logic for teens, I believe, or young adults. and follow the steps and the guidelines in there is what I most highly recommend, because it is a system of teaching choice, consequence, and responsibility. So that's what I would recommend. Good question. And there's lots of, I'm not going to get deep into this. There's lots of different perspectives. But thank you for this, because this would have been a better analogy that I could have used and didn't think of on the question about porn. The question being, my wife has told me that she reads erotic writing and that turns her on. Is this a case of a different kind of porn, which is a turn on for women? Yeah. And even romantic love novels is a type of porn for women, or an outlet and a vice, right? So that would have been a better example that I used with porn, that a man watching porn is like a woman reading a Danielle Steele novel or an erotic novel or a romance novel. It's an escape and it's a fantasy. So yeah, I'd say that's very, very right on. So thank you. Yeah, Jonathan, at what point do you quit trying to work on a relationship with someone who is so dedicated to being a victim? Life is way too short. You have to know your values. So if it's becoming clear that your wife or girlfriend is not going to change and she's going to live in Camp Victim, you have to look at, what are my values? What's important to me? Is there enough good here that I can focus on the good and accept this part? Or is this not where I want to be? And then based on your values, then you leave. If your value is, I do not want to stay in a relationship with a woman who's dedicated to being a victim, good for you. And you need to know that in yourself, and then you don't be a victim and take responsibility to leave, knowing your value. Life is too short to be with someone who's dedicated to being a victim. This isn't how I want to live my life. This is someone I chose to be with. It's not working out, and I'm going to choose to leave and do that from a place of can't take responsibility of, oh, well, I married a woman or I got with a woman and this is her woman way. Now I know. And what's my next move? So again, you're not a victim to it. And KJ, the writer, should a father take the main role of parenting? Yes. If you haven't already, please watch the beginning of the live where I answer that question. Yes, 100%. What did I say earlier to another question? Absolutely, emphatically, yes. The father should take the main role of parenting, because men are more naturally wired to be parents and hold their children accountable, set consequences, teach about life, let their children get hurt and pick back up and figure it out. So yes. And if you haven't, like I said, please go watch the beginning. That's an interesting question, C. Irving. Who should have the last say in decision making? So what I teach is that as women, we need to learn to let our husbands lead. And a good man's never going to have the final say. But we should learn to let our husbands lead and decision making, because men are practical, logical, are thinking big picture and what's best for the family in general. And really, it would benefit us a lot as women to let our husbands lead in the decision making. So thank you for the question. Interesting question. How long do you wait for someone who sees their problems, watches your videos, but is still in the rut of poor decisions? So I'm going to take this angle to answer this question. Thank you for the question. It's really, really, really important. If you are a good man and your wife or girlfriend is open to my videos, maybe has taken one or both of my courses, is looking at themselves, sees themselves, it's going to be a process for them to change their behaviors. And she's still going to be a woman. I talk about all the time. You guys probably get sick of me saying it. I am not perfect. I make mistakes. I am still a woman, and have to catch myself in my womanness. I am never, ever, ever going to be like a good man. I have made integrity a priority in my life, being a wife and a good wife at that, and my marriage as a top priority in my life. And I still fall down. And I still make mistakes, and I'm still a woman. My woman ways have drastically lowered and changed over the years, for sure. But we're always going to be a woman. We're always going to be a woman. So what you want to focus on, if you have a wife or a girlfriend who's been open to my videos or even taking my courses, you want to look for the progress and the positive, and not focus on poor decisions still being made or her woman ways. You want to focus on, you lucked out that you have a woman who's willing to look at herself, is open to my message, watches my videos, because that's not most women. It's very rare. And it takes time to change our behaviors and to change our habits and patterns that we've been in for a long time. And I'm not making excuses. Again, I don't know this person or the details of their situation at all. But you want to decide what are your values and what's important to you, and to know you're still going to be with a woman. I notice some men with my videos and what I teach and talk about want a woman to think and behave and have the same logical process that they have as a man. And that is idyllic, wishful thinking. That's not going to happen. So that's why I talk about the dance. It's coming together in our differences, to accept each other and have an understanding that we are different. So you're not expecting perfection or a miracle of changes, but focusing even on the small changes and focusing on the fact that she's open to my videos. That's huge. One of my students, if you guys are patient with me just a minute, I want to pull something up. One of my students who came through my men's course said it really well. He wrote me an email halfway through the course, and I thought this was really well said. If you just give me a minute, thank you. Where is it? There it is. Okay. So he said, and what he was understanding through what I teach and going through the men's course, I'm just going to read this. He said, I feel like your approach to teaching all these concepts is the one I needed. Many red pill content out there is focused on various facets of the alpha male mentality, which can be either hating or resenting women for what they are instead of accepting women for who they are, and submitting women to the men's will instead of navigating, and telling men when they don't, they are weak, which we both know how destructive that can be for an already beaten down guy. The vision of the problem, which many of my friends in my political organization share, at least, and how they present it, is nothing but opposing toe-to-toe feminist perspective, when what we need is an actual broad, accepting, and often Aufhebung, in the sense of the philosopher Hegel, going beyond the opposition by recognizing the unity in that opposition. That's the part, going beyond the opposition by recognizing the unity in that opposition. That really describes the dance we want to find between women and good men, that we're never going to be the same. We're always going to have our differences. A good man's going to be wired to be practical and logical. A woman's going to be wired to be emotional and have woman ways. But if she's open-minded and is working to change and become better in herself, it's really finding that unity in our differences between us and not expecting each other to be the same. So I hope that makes sense, and that gives you something to work from your question. And if it is possible too, that a woman watches my videos, sees the problems, but is not changing at all, then yeah, you want to take that in consideration. But I often say, especially if she's watching my videos, if she's come through one or both of my courses, you want to give it a good year or so, because it takes time to change behaviors and patterns. And if she's committed and working hard at it, but still stumbling, that's just part of the process. So that's what I would say to that. And thank you for the question. And thank you, Phil, for sending those over. All right, just taking a one more look or two here in the chat. Thank you, Phil. Thank you so much for your generosity. Let me pop over here really quick. I always like to let you guys know with contributions. Oh goodness, there's a bunch over here. Thank you guys. That those go to Adam and I having fun, and we had some fun last weekend camping, and had a really nice lunch out on the river in Salida, Colorado, at an awesome place called the Boathouse, where you can sit on the river on their patio, and it's right on the river park where kayakers and rafters go down, and you'll watch kayakers practice rolling and things like that, and it's just it's a fun place. So we used some of your contributions on the Saturday show to go have a nice lunch and a beer, and had a great time. So thank you, Phil, for your continued generosity and support of the show. Great show today, Karen. You picked some great questions. Australian, thank you. Thanks, Karen. You are doing God's work for a lot of men out there. I appreciate that very much. Oh, and Charles, Karen, you're my anchor, and not in a bad way. Thank you. I appreciate that very, very much, and glad you have the support of the channel and the message in that way. And that's very touching. So, all right, guys, I think I'm going to wrap up for the day. It's a beautiful, beautiful day outside. In fact, my colleague and friend Josie is coming over to mine and Adam's, and we're going to go to our community's pool and enjoy the sun out here in Colorado. It's a beautiful, beautiful day. And I will look through the chat. I always do, and collect any questions I maybe didn't see to consider them for a future Q&A. And you guys be safe out there. Have a good start of the month of June, and I'll see you next Saturday. I will see you next Saturday on the 7th, but there will not be a show on the 14th. So, all right, guys, until next time, bye.